Imagine being on top of the world, hailed as one of the greatest rappers alive, adored by millions of fans, and then suddenly, your past comes back to haunt you. That's exactly what happened to Eminem, the only white rapper who managed to dominate a culture built by black artists, when a set of secret, racially charged recordings from his teenage years resurfaced. These tapes weren't just embarrassing, they were explosive, filled with slurs and controversial lyrics that threatened to end his career before it even really began. But the controversy didn't stop there. Eminem wasn't just battling his own past. He found himself in the middle of a full-blown feud with the Source magazine and its co-owner, Ray Benzino, who made it their mission to take him down. Diss tracks flew, insults were exchanged, and even Eminem's family got dragged into the chaos. Suddenly, the media, hip-hop legends, and fans were all watching, waiting to see if Eminem, the superstar, could survive what might be the earliest example of cancel culture in music history. In this video, Eminence Daily takes you deep inside the drama, the diss tracks, and the racial controversy that almost shattered Eminem's rise to fame, and reveals how he fought back to become untouchable. Eminem's rise to superstardom didn't happen overnight. Long before he became the rap icon known worldwide, there was a young Marshall Mathers navigating the underground hip-hop scene of Detroit, a world that was vibrant, competitive, and, above all, dominated by black artists who had built the culture from the ground up. As a white kid with a natural talent for rhythm and wordplay, Eminem stood out, but he also faced scrutiny from those who questioned whether a white rapper could truly belong in a space so deeply rooted in black experience. It was during this formative period that he joined a small, local collective called Basement Productions, a group of like-minded friends and aspiring artists who wanted nothing more than to make music that reflected their lives, their frustrations, and their ambitions. The group consisted of Eminem himself, White MC Chaos Kid, Brothers, DJ Butterfingers, and Mannix, and together they recorded tracks that, while raw and unpolished, showed early flashes of the lyrical genius that would eventually define Eminem's career. The problem, however, was that some of these tracks carried a racial edge. Looking back, it's clear that they were the product of teenage anger, immaturity, and personal heartbreak. Eminem, at the time only 15 or 16, had just gone through a painful breakup with a black girlfriend, and those emotions spilled into the lyrics he created. The songs contained slurs and commentary that, in the moment, felt like a way to vent frustration but would later resurface as a public relations nightmare. It's hard to overstate just how precarious Eminem's position was at the time. As a young white rapper in a genre dominated by black voices, every misstep was magnified, and the potential for backlash was enormous. By the late 1990s, Eminem began to gain serious traction, first in Detroit's underground scene and then on a national level, thanks to his undeniable talent and relentless work ethic. His connection with Champ Tao, a local producer and mentor, proved instrumental. Champ Tao had introduced Eminem to Detroit's black hip-hop community, helping him understand the culture, refine his sound, and navigate the politics of a scene that could be both welcoming and unforgiving. Tao invested time and energy into shaping Eminem, ensuring that he learned the nuances of hip-hop and earned respect from the community rather than merely appropriating it. The mentorship paid off, and Eminem's skills began attracting attention from record labels, eventually leading to his signing with Shady Records and Interscope. Despite his growing fame, the shadow of his Basement Productions tapes lingered. At the time, they were considered private, a relic of teenage experimentation and emotional misfires. Yet, the potential for scandal was always there, and as Eminem's popularity soared, so did the risk that someone might dig up the material. The early 2000s marked a period of incredible success for Eminem, culminating in the release of The Eminem Show in 2002. Critics and fans alike praised the album, cementing his place as a rap heavyweight. But even as he basked in commercial and critical acclaim, not everyone was willing to celebrate his achievements without question. The Source magazine, a publication with immense influence in the hip-hop community, reviewed The Eminem Show and gave it 4 mics out of 5, a respectable rating but a blow to Eminem, who felt that his work deserved the maximum recognition. To him, the rating was not simply an editorial opinion, it was a reflection of deep-seated bias. Ray Benzino, the magazine's co-owner, had already made his opinions about Eminem clear. Eminem accused The Source and Benzino of refusing to give him full credit because of his race, suggesting that a white rapper could never receive the same reverence in hip-hop as his black counterparts, regardless of his talent or dedication. This sense of injustice set the stage for a conflict that would define much of Eminem's career in the years to come. Tensions escalated when Eminem, declining an interview request from Benzino regarding a new film, effectively refused to engage with the man who had positioned himself as a gatekeeper in the hip-hop world. Benzino responded with a diss track, "Pull Your Skirt Up," mocking Eminem and labeling him the 2003 Vanilla Ice, a reference meant to question his authenticity and legitimacy as a hip-hop artist. What began as a professional disagreement quickly morphed into a personal vendetta. Eminem, known for his sharp wit and no-holds-barred lyrical approach, retaliated with tracks that directly targeted Benzino and the Source. Songs like Invasion, The Sauce, and Nail in the Coffin weren't just responses. They were full-blown lyrical attacks designed to dismantle his adversaries publicly. The feud became even more complicated as other players entered the scene. Ja Rule, already embroiled in his own battle with 50 Cent, who was signed under Shady Records, found himself indirectly involved in the tension. Diss tracks referencing multiple figures, including Eminem's collaborators and family, began circulating, creating a volatile mix of personal and professional animosity. At one point, the conflict crossed a line when Eminem's daughter, Haley, was mentioned in a diss track. For Eminem, family was off-limits, a principle he would make painfully clear in subsequent songs. The stakes had risen from simple rivalry to an all-out cultural war, with media outlets, fans, and fellow artists watching closely, waiting to see who would emerge victorious. Amid the chaos, the Basement Productions tapes began to resurface. Friends from Eminem's early days attempted to sell the recordings, which contained racial slurs and offensive lyrics, hoping to profit from the sensational nature of the content. Benzino acquired the tapes for approximately $10,000, intending to leverage them as ammunition in his ongoing battle with Eminem. The plan was simple: expose the tapes through the Source, inflaming public opinion and undermining Eminem's credibility. For Eminem, this was a nightmare scenario. Tracks like Foolish Pride, which criticized black women based on appearance and materialistic desires, were now public, threatening to overshadow his decades of success and artistic achievement. Faced with this threat, Eminem took decisive action. He filed a lawsuit against the Source for copyright infringement, arguing that the magazine had illegally copied his unreleased recordings. Initially, the court granted an injunction, preventing the magazine from distributing the material. However, the ruling was later modified to allow the Source to publish 20-second clips, a decision that only fueled the controversy. While Eminem's legal team appealed, the magazine went ahead, posting lyrics and snippets of the recordings online, ensuring maximum exposure. The stakes were high, but Eminem remained undeterred, demonstrating the resilience and focus that would become trademarks of his career. Through it all, Eminem never shied away from acknowledging his mistakes. He publicly apologized for the content of the tapes, explaining that they had been recorded when he was just 15 or 16 and were fueled by anger and heartbreak rather than hate. By contextualizing the recordings as teenage missteps, he attempted to separate the immaturity of youth from the artist he had become. Despite the uproar, his career remained largely intact. The controversy did not derail his rise. Instead, it became part of the complex narrative of Eminem's journey, a story of talent, controversy, and ultimate resilience that would shape his legacy for years to come. As Eminem's fame grew, so did the scrutiny he faced, and nowhere was this more evident than in the war waged by Ray Benzino and the Source. For Benzino, Eminem represented more than just a popular rapper. He symbolized a white outsider dominating a culture that was fundamentally black. Benzino's perspective was that hip-hop had been a platform for black voices to express struggles, stories, and experiences that were historically marginalized, and suddenly, a white rapper was reaping commercial success on a scale that no one in his position had ever imagined. For him, it wasn't personal. It was about cultural authenticity, and he was determined to defend what he considered the integrity of hip-hop. The conflict became public almost immediately. Benzino's diss track, "Pull Your Skirt Up," mocked Eminem's appearance, accused him of stealing the culture, and drew parallels to Vanilla Ice, a rapper whose career had been widely derided for exploiting black music without credibility. Eminem, known for his sharp tongue and lyrical genius, responded without hesitation. Tracks like Invasion and The Sauce were scathing, calling out Benzino, the Source, and even Dave Mays personally. Eminem's retaliation wasn't just lyrical, it was strategic. He used every public platform available, from interviews to performances, to assert his place in hip-hop and defend himself against what he viewed as unfair attacks. It wasn't just a feud between two men, it became a cultural battle. Fans were drawn in, taking sides, debating whether Eminem deserved the success he had achieved or if Benzino was justified in protecting the culture from outsiders. Radio stations, magazine editors, and fellow artists all became part of the conversation, creating a whirlwind of media coverage that magnified every insult every rhyme, and every reference. What started as a rating dispute, the Source giving the Eminem show 4 mics instead of 5, escalated into a war involving diss tracks, lawsuits, and public commentary from both sides. Complicating the feud further was Eminem's refusal to participate in interviews or negotiations with Benzino. By ignoring Benzino's attempts to publicly confront him, Eminem effectively forced the conflict into the music itself. Every song, every verse, became a battleground. Fans dissected lyrics line by line, searching for hidden meanings and implied threats. When Benzino released further diss tracks, Eminem countered with even more biting responses, ensuring that his position remained unchallenged in the court of public opinion. This strategy worked in part because Eminem had already built a reputation as a fiercely competitive artist who could not be underestimated, but it also showcased the sheer intensity of hip-hop beefs in the early 2000s, a time when words alone could ignite massive controversy. As the diss tracks flew, a more personal dimension emerged. Benzino and his allies began to reference Eminem's family, specifically his daughter Haley, in ways that crossed boundaries even within the brutal world of hip-hop rivalries. For Eminem, this was a line that could not be crossed. While the initial feud was about credibility, authenticity, and cultural ownership, the inclusion of family members escalated the conflict into deeply personal territory. Eminem's response was swift and merciless. Tracks like Go to Sleep and later diss records addressed not only Benzino but also Ja Rule, who had his own ongoing conflict with 50 Cent, a Shady Records signee and Eminem's close ally. The web of feuds became increasingly complex, with overlapping rivalries making it difficult to separate personal vendettas from professional disputes. At the same time, the resurfacing of Eminem's teenage recordings, the so-called racial rap hour, added fuel to the fire. Friends from Eminem's early days tried to sell these tapes, hoping to profit from their explosive content. 2 tracks, in particular, Foolish Pride and a shorter recording, contained offensive language targeting black women and included derogatory racial slurs. Benzino acquired the tapes for approximately $10,000 and planned to use them to discredit Eminem, intending to publish them alongside a new edition of the Source magazine. For Eminem, this was a worst-case scenario. Decades of careful image building threatened to unravel overnight. The tapes contained not only offensive lyrics but also evidence of behavior that could be portrayed as racist, even if the context was teenage anger and heartbreak. Legal action became inevitable. Eminem and Shady Records filed a lawsuit against the Source, claiming copyright infringement for reproducing unreleased recordings without permission. Initially, the court granted an injunction, preventing the magazine from distributing the full tapes. This was a small victory for Eminem, but the fight was far from over. The ruling was later modified, allowing the Source to publish 20-second clips and the full lyrics of the tracks online. The magazine went ahead with the release, and the controversy exploded across media outlets. Eminem's teenage mistakes were now publicly scrutinized, dissected, and debated by fans, journalists, and critics alike. What's remarkable is how Eminem handled the situation. Rather than remaining silent or becoming defensive, he issued a public apology, acknowledging the offensive content and placing it in context. He emphasized that he was only 15 or 16 at the time of the recordings and that the lyrics were the product of youthful anger and immaturity, not genuine malice. Eminem's explanation framed the tapes as a phase of growth rather than a reflection of his true character. By taking responsibility and providing context, he mitigated some of the potential fallout, though the damage to his public image was still a serious concern. Meanwhile, Benzino and the Source continued to stoke the controversy, arguing that Eminem had benefited unfairly from the hip-hop community and mainstream media. Benzino's position was clear. Eminem, as a white artist, had access to opportunities that black rappers often struggled to obtain. To Benzino, this imbalance symbolized broader issues of racial and cultural inequity in the music industry. As the feud dragged on, it became clear that the conflict between Eminem and Ray Benzino was about more than just music. It was a clash of narratives, identities, and influence in the hip-hop world. Benzino, having positioned himself as a guardian of hip-hop culture, had a mission: to challenge Eminem's success and highlight what he saw as the dangers of a white rapper dominating a historically black art form. For Eminem, however, the fight was personal, professional, and cultural all at once. He was defending his career, his legacy, and his integrity, and he did so with the same ferocity that had propelled him to the top of the charts. Even after legal battles over the Basement Productions tapes were underway, Benzino and the Source continued to push. They published snippets of the recordings, releasing 20-second clips and the full lyrics online. The content was inflammatory, containing racial slurs and offensive commentary from Eminem's teenage years. The publication ignited widespread debate. Critics argued that Eminem should be held accountable, while fans pointed out the context. These were the words of a teenager, not the artist who had spent years building a career on lyrical skill and cultural awareness. Eminem's response was careful and deliberate. He apologized publicly, explaining that the tracks were recorded at 15 or 16 and were the product of anger, heartbreak, and immaturity. This acknowledgement helped to reframe the narrative and mitigate some of the backlash. At the same time, Eminem continued to address the feud musically. Diss tracks like Go to Sleep and Nail in the Coffin demonstrated his lyrical dominance, while songs like Toy Soldiers offered a reflective perspective on the nature of beefs in hip-hop. In Like Toy Soldiers, Eminem expressed the idea that once personal boundaries, particularly family, are crossed, conflicts escalate in ways that go beyond words. He highlighted the dangers of allowing music to become a vehicle for personal attacks, showing that despite his aggressive responses, he understood the limits of confrontation. This song, in particular, became a touchstone for fans who wanted insight into Eminem's perspective on the drama, revealing a more introspective side of the rapper amid the chaos. Public opinion during this period was deeply divided. On one side were fans and younger listeners who defended Eminem, arguing that his talent, hard work, and dedication to hip-hop far outweighed the mistakes of his teenage years. On the other side were critics and figures like Benzino, who saw Eminem as an interloper whose presence threatened the authenticity of the genre. The debate often centered on questions of race, access, and cultural ownership. Could a white rapper genuinely belong in hip-hop? Was commercial success inherently exploitative, or was it simply a reward for talent? These were not easy questions, and the public discourse amplified every twist and turn of the feud. The media played a pivotal role in shaping how the story unfolded. Magazines like The Source and its competitors were not merely reporting on events, they were active participants in the drama. By choosing which stories to publish, which lyrics to highlight, and how to frame the narrative, the media influenced public perception in profound ways. For Eminem, navigating this landscape required not only legal action but also strategic use of his own platforms. Interviews, performances, and lyrics became tools to assert control over his story and push back against narratives that he felt misrepresented him. The intersection of media, culture, and personal conflict made this period one of the most complex and high-stakes phases of Eminem's career. Legal battles continued to shape the feud's trajectory. Eminem's lawsuit against The Source for copyright infringement highlighted the tension between artistic control and media freedom. While the court allowed limited publication of the tapes, Eminem's legal action sent a clear message. He would defend his intellectual property and personal brand vigorously. This aspect of the conflict underscored how celebrity and artistry intersect with law, particularly in cases where controversial material from the past resurfaces. It wasn't just a feud, it was a lesson in navigating fame, legal systems, and public scrutiny all at once. Eventually, cracks began to appear in Benzino's campaign. Public backlash against The Source's aggressive tactics and the personal nature of the attacks began to shift sentiment. Many listeners and industry figures felt that targeting Eminem's family crossed an ethical line, even in a culture where lyrical attacks were common. The exposure of the teenage tapes, while controversial, was also recognized by some as a reflection of youthful mistakes rather than a pattern of current behavior. Over time, this perception helped to weaken Benzino's position, allowing Eminem to regain the narrative high ground. Eminem's own response to the controversy evolved as well. Beyond diss tracks and legal action, he increasingly emphasized accountability, growth, and context. By publicly addressing the nature of the tapes, explaining his age at the time, and acknowledging the emotional motivations behind the lyrics, he reframed the discussion from condemnation to understanding. This approach allowed fans to see not only the artist they loved, but also the human being behind the headlines. A teenager who had made mistakes, a man who had learned from them, and a performer who had risen above controversy. By 2005, after years of legal and lyrical battles, Eminem signaled a willingness to move on. While some debates about the tapes and their implications continued in the public sphere, the intensity of the feud had diminished. The rapper had survived one of the earliest examples of cancel culture in hip-hop, navigating criticism, legal challenges, and personal attacks without losing his place at the top of the industry. For fans and observers, the period offered a masterclass in resilience, strategy, and the ability to confront controversy head-on. The eventual resolution of the feud came years later, as Benzino himself reflected on the situation. He admitted that the conflict was not solely about Eminem personally, but about what he represented in the broader culture. Hip-hop had always been a space for black voices to express their stories, and Eminem's success had challenged some of the assumptions about who could participate and thrive within the genre. Over time, Benzino acknowledged Eminem's contributions and recognized him as a legitimate and influential figure in hip-hop, marking the end of one of the most prolonged and complex conflicts in the history of the genre. This period of Eminem's career stands as a testament to the intersection of talent, controversy, and cultural context. It demonstrates how fame can amplify past mistakes, how media influence can shape public perception, and how resilience and strategic thinking can allow an artist to emerge stronger. The tapes, the diss tracks, and the personal attacks all formed a crucible that tested Eminem's character and creativity, ultimately proving that he could not only survive adversity but thrive in spite of it. By the mid-2000s, Eminem had not only weathered the storm but had also solidified his position as a cultural icon. The racial rap recordings became a footnote, a reminder of youthful errors rather than a defining feature of his career. The lessons learned about accountability, cultural sensitivity, and the power of narrative continued to inform his work, shaping his approach to both music and public life. For younger fans who joined the fandom after this period, the controversy was largely invisible, while older fans recognized it as a pivotal chapter that showcased Eminem's resilience and strategic brilliance. In the end, the feud and the racial tapes controversy were more than just drama. They were a crucible that tested Eminem on multiple levels: personal, professional, and cultural. His ability to navigate these challenges, maintain his career, and continue creating influential music is a testament to his skill, intelligence, and enduring appeal. It's a story of conflict, growth, and ultimate triumph, one that remains a defining chapter in the life of one of hip-hop's most iconic figures. Before we wrap up, we want to hear from you. Eminem's journey through controversy, feuds, and the resurfacing of those old tapes isn't just a story about hip-hop. It's a story about resilience, accountability, and how one of the greatest artists of our time navigated the pressures of fame. So here's the question for all of you watching right now. If you were in Eminem's shoes, how would you have handled a situation like this? Would you have fought back with music, taken the legal route, or tried to quietly weather the storm? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your perspective, and who knows, your insight might just spark the next big conversation on our channel. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most controversial chapters of Eminem's career, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps us know you want more stories like this. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Eminence Daily and turn on the notification bell. We bring you the juiciest, most detailed breakdowns of hip-hop's biggest moments, the feuds, the comebacks, and the behind-the-scenes stories that the mainstream media won't tell you. From Eminem's battles to 50 Cent, Benzino, and beyond, we cover it all with the depth and drama you crave. And don't forget to share this video with your friends who love hip-hop drama. They'll thank you for it, and you'll get the credit for keeping the conversation alive. We're building a community of real fans who love to discuss the highs, the lows, and the controversies that have shaped the culture. Your voice matters, and your engagement helps Eminence Daily continue delivering content that goes beyond the surface. So stay tuned, because this isn't just a story from the past. It's a reminder of how hip-hop evolves, how reputations are tested, and how legends are made. Comment, like, subscribe, and let us know. How do you think Eminem came out of this controversy stronger than ever? Your thoughts might just be featured in our next video. Eminence Daily is where the real hip-hop stories live, and trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next.